All right, so this is the book I will be covering, or just a few, like a page or two from this. So, and I'm pretty much, first of all, this is from Thomas Sowell. He's an economist, very highly well respected. He's on the political spectrum, you'd probably put him towards the right, but he's really not. It's one of those things where it's an economist who just disagrees with other economists, so then they classify each other on each side. So, but most people would probably say he's on the right. So, but he is an economist. He's not a political guy. He's an economist who happens to believe that economics leads. His ideas seem to agree more to the. His view of economics tends to align more with those on the right. I'll say that. So I'm pretty much just going to read right now. This is not even a rough draft. It's rough draft. But I just wanted to get my thoughts onto paper right away before they left my brain as I was reading this book. And more specifically, and I don't want to, it'd be nice to just read exactly from here, but I'm going to go over mainly these two, this highlight and then this paragraph. And that's what in this short paper I wrote, I'm referring, those two things are what really triggered me writing this. So this is by me. It's, I wrote it on the 17th of July of 2026, so just a few days ago. I titled it Intuition Under Scientific Scrutiny. So let's see. So I just spent 15 minutes reading from Thomas Sowell's Social Justice Fallacies. And I have to say, he delivered some very concrete evidence to support his views, specifically in regards to the discrepancies between blacks and whites. The disparities he addressed were in income, education, and test scores. So I'll repeat that. In income, the disparities he addressed were in income, education, and test scores. Okay. Oftentimes, we believe that these discrepancies, I'm gonna make it bigger so I don't have to keep on struggling to see. Okay. Oftentimes, we believe that these discrepancies in income, education, test scores, in this example, are due primarily, if not solely, to racial discrimination directed from whites towards blacks, and to what is known as systemic racism. So notice these two, I put two things in quotations just to, because that's a term that's popular, so that's why I put it in quotations. So those would be racial discrimination and systemic racism. All right. This almost intuitively seems to be the right answer. Let me actually go back to the beginning of the paragraph. Oftentimes, we believe that these discrepancies in income, education, test scores are due primarily, if not solely, to racial discrimination directed from whites towards blacks and to what is known as systemic racism. This, almost intuitively, seems to be the right answer. If we hear somebody make this claim unchallenged, we may naturally say, makes sense, and just like that, adopt their belief or worldview, whatever you want to call it. However, when challenged logically with evidence, it becomes obvious that one, the real answer is more complicated than initially thought of, than one initially thinks. And two, if racial discrimination and systemic racism are to be the real culprits of these disparities, then so far at this early stage of the discussion, so far as at this, imagine this is a conversation that two people are having and somebody brings up, hey, what do you think of this book? And I'm like, well, I think this and that. Well, I think this because of this and this and that. Okay, so it's a discussion, it's a back and forth. So I'm just pointing out that just because I'm making a claim doesn't mean I've considered every single possible claim and response, possible rebuttal. Let's allow the conversation to flow. But at this stage so far that we just began the discussion, the debate, let me read it again. At this early stage of the discussion, okay. I'll go back to that beginning of that sentence just because I had to explain that. However, when challenged logically with evidence, it becomes obvious that one, the real answer is more complicated than initially thought of, and two, if racial discrimination and systemic racism are to be the real culprits of these disparities, then so far at this early stage of the discussion, no evidence has been provided to support this hypothesis. Since no evidence was actually originally provided, it was only assumed that racial discrimination and systemic racism were the reasons for those disparities. And in fact, evidence has been provided of the contrary. I will get into this evidence soon. Like I said, this is a very, very, very rough draft. I was really just putting my thoughts down. I know it doesn't flow very well, but I just wanted to make a video addressing this right away. And later on I can write another paper and actually, or just organize it and make it more, actually organize my thoughts and present it in a more organized way. But right now I just wanted to make a video real quick talking about this. So let me read that one paragraph again. I'll do that, but not right now, actually. I want to finish it first, and then I'll go back and probably read the whole thing again after, without explaining everything. Next paragraph. But first, a quick side note on intuition. This is the main thing. Intuition is not always right. If anyone has ever taken statics, any engineering student has ever taken statics. All right, but first, a quick side note on intuition. Intuition is not always right. If anyone has ever taken statics, a physics-heavy engineering course in college, as I have, you very quickly realize that your intuition as to what the solution to the problem is often very wrong. I can almost venture to say that there is not one engineering student, not one, that has, on their first try, gotten the solution to a problem that they just learned how to solve. This should make sense to engineering students. Sorry, everybody else. Sorry, everybody else. I put that in parentheses. So I'll explain it. So if you're in college and you have a friend who's in engineering, in the engineering college, ask him, hey, what do you think of statics? They're gonna first of all right away complain about it. Oh my gosh, it's so hard, blah blah blah. Because it is a difficult course for beginners. So, and here's the main thing is that it is not intuitive. So initially, when you solve a problem, let's say you go to a lecture, okay, first day, or any day of the semester, you're taking statics, and there's a lecture, the professor goes over the new material. Okay, now we're on chapter 5, chapter 6, whatever. We're learning structural analysis. I believe it's chapter 6 in this book. Structural analysis, we'll be learning how to deal with trusses, how to deal with frames and machines. We learn the method of joints, the method of sections. We learn, you need two unknowns. If you have two unknowns, well, do you have two equations? If you have two here, you need two here to be able to solve it. So you just learn all these things, okay. And then now you go home, you're assigned homework, and you try the homework. I guarantee you, there's not one exists, maybe one, or 0.001% of all engineering students who got every problem on their homework correct the first time they tried, after they just came back from the lecture. Why? Why is that? A few things. One, well, you just don't have all the information. It's your first try. But second is, the main thing is it's not intuitive, because oftentimes you're trying to. That's what a lot of these math-heavy courses are. Things aren't intuitive. You don't go like, oh yeah, obviously, yeah, that's a two-force member, or well, that one is intuitive, but obviously, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the force would come from this direction. Yeah, duh, it makes sense. It just doesn't. So you have to really think it through. You have to try it out. You have to do it wrong a few times until you really understand why this is the correct way of doing it. So all I'm doing in this paragraph is explaining, trying to convey to the reader, to you guys, that it is not intuitive. And any engineering student knows that, who's taking statics. Because your first attempt is just not going to be right. At least at the beginning, until you really grasp the concepts, and that happens through repetition, in my experience. So back to that part. My point being that on our first gut feeling, we may believe X but under scrutiny, a deep analysis, why is actually the correct answer. Next paragraph. Okay. Then I continue. I didn't finish I wrote down a few ideas. I didn't actually finish it, but pretty much that's the beginning of me addressing this book and those two things I highlighted. All right, well, thank you for listening to this, guys. I really appreciate it. Feel free to let me know what you think of so far of my point, and if you know what my point is going to be. I think you can probably figure out where I'm heading, with me addressing, talking about statics and how things are not intuitive. But I will leave it at this point just because I haven't written all of my thoughts down, haven't put them all down, so I don't want to continue on. But I'll finish actually writing them down on this paper, and then I'll make a part 2 going over, continuing with my argument pretty much. I will also make another side note on just these videos that I'm making and what I'm talking about, because this book, Social Justice Fallacies, and the author Thomas Sowell, yes, I think he went to Cambridge or Oxford or Columbia. Like he went to some Ivy League, like some prestigious university where he got his degree in economics, and then he also taught at Harvard, I think, or somewhere. And like he's a very achieved guy, but I know he's controversial, not so much because he's controversial, but I understand how, because he addresses economics. He addresses not economics just in the numbers of like finances, but in the sense of in the social side of it, things. Like right now he's talking about race. He's talking about discrepancies or disparities in race, in black communities, in white communities, in Asian communities. So why are there differences? Is it due to discrimination? Is it due to bias, racial bias? Is it due to other factors, just economic factors, things that are out of our control, that are not intentional, that are not intentional? So all these things by nature are going to be controversial, and they're going to, quite frankly, piss off some people, which that's why he as he passed away already. But he used to have security with him 24, I don't know if 24/7, but he had security. He wouldn't give out his address when he would do interviews or he would have people over. So, because people are trying to kill him, or they were trying to kill him. And so I'm saying all this just to point out the fact that, yes, I'm aware these are controversial topics. They are very debated. People disagree strongly on both sides, on all the sides. So I'm aware of that. The whole point of this YouTube channel, at least so far, and the whole point of me going over this paper and writing down my thoughts is not because I know the solution or because I know I'm right and I'm not going to change my mind and all. No, that's not what it is. What it is it's really the contrary. I'm trying to get to the bottom of things, to get to the solution. Yeah, I have my thoughts, I have my beliefs. I like Thomas Sowell. He seems to make sense to me. But the whole point is not just for me to try to, cover my ears, close my eyes, and then just say, no, I believe this is true. No, the whole point is for me to analyze, okay, seems to make sense to me. So this is what it is. I'm going to say, this makes sense to me. This is what I think. Am I wrong? And people can correct me if I'm wrong. And then I will allow, that's what I want. And I want the back and forth. I like the discussion. It's an intellectual stimulation, just talking about these things, just me reading through the book, just me putting my ideas down, me putting it out there on YouTube so that people can come back and tell me, hey, you're wrong here, so that we can go back and forth and we can actually get to the bottom of it. So in this case, I'm trying to get it to the bottom of what exactly did because as I was reading it, like I said, I highlighted two things that really stood out, that to me just made a lot of sense. I knew I liked Thomas Sowell. I knew some of his ideas, but after he went over this, and he is an economist, and he went through it really It's like taking like through baby steps, like just almost like grabbing the reader by the hand, walking them through, okay, the logic, the conclusion, okay, if A, okay, then B, if B, then C. Now we know this, therefore this is the case. It's like very logical path that made a lot of sense to me. That's why I said I had to agree with some of his arguments. So my whole point is for me to explain what I see, and then just get to the bottom of things, pretty much. So I don't want to. I'm more, I think you guys know what I mean, but pretty much I'm just trying to point out that don't be mad at knowledge is good, getting information is good, expressing one's views is good, learning is good. So that's what I'm doing. I'm getting information. I'm reading a book. I'm processing information. I'm giving my thoughts. I wrote it down, and then and then I'm gonna have to challenge those views and put them out there on YouTube so that people can correct me, other YouTubers, comments, whatever, because I want to get to the bottom of things. I really want the truth as best as I can, and that's all it is. So this is not one of those podcasts where people are yelling at each other, where I'm going to shut somebody down, where I start cussing at somebody, and that's not what it is. This is really just like more, I would like to say more scientific, more intellectual, like get to the bottom of things. So all right, so that's all I want to say. Just that. Thank you. All right, another thing, guys, that I didn't mention, which is really what I wanted to mention. I just went on a tangent, but I want to say, as a human being, we have, as a political thinker, one thing Aristotle said in Politics, he said that the man is by nature a political animal, and I agree with that. And the way I see it is there are multiple parts of us. So for example, when I'm making a video, when I'm going over things, especially with this paper, when I'm writing it to make an argument. It doesn't mean I 100% it's not that I believe, it's a thought I have. It's a belief that it's an idea that, not idea, it's a worldview. I have to make an argument. So it is an argument that I'm making. It is not the only thoughts I have or the only possible argument that can be made, but I have to make an argument, and that's what I'm doing. It's almost like I'm going to separate myself into 3, 4, 5 parts of me with different thoughts, and all saying their own thoughts. For example, there's the part of me that says, hey, this makes a lot of sense. I agree 100% because of this and this and that. Wouldn't this, it just makes logical sense. And then there's another part of me that's like, that is true, but this part right here does not make sense because of what about this? What about that? Couldn't it be interpreted in this other way? And there's another part of me that disagrees with that or sees it in a different way. So when I'm writing a paper, or when I'm just making a video, right, like this one, or when I make another video on another topic, or some other controversial topic, or I write another paper, I almost like don't take everything too seriously, because I'm not the expert. I am putting down thoughts and ideas. They are my thoughts and my ideas. But it doesn't mean that I'm close-minded or that I have not considered another possible side. So that's the main thing.